Hey there guys, and welcome back to the Musings of Maverick channel. I'm your host Maverick, and today we are going to be watching the Saga of Tanya to Evo episode 7. So, last episode, our 203rd Mage Battalion got its first real fight, right? Of which they still smashed through very convincingly. Tanya herself is OP in a lot of regards, right? And also all the mages of the 203rd as well. But in any case, at least we do know that they're still limited in some aspects and they are not invulnerable. And anyways, so it seems that we are shifting our sights from the southeast up north with the Entente Alliance, which has actually no relation with the Triple Entente of World War I, confusingly enough. And it seems that the Strategic Command is going to be using a new sort of strategy in order to go on the offensive. Now, I made the prediction last episode that it's probably going to be one of two strategies. One is a strategy where you cut off the enemy supply lines and force them into a war of attrition, of which your side can win. Or it could be a more interesting prospect, which is sort of living off the land strategy, and that is seizing supplies from the enemy to use for yourself. So that's what I'm predicting right now, and let's just see if that's going to come true. By the way, I do know that there is an episode 6.5, but since that is just a recap episode, I decided to just skip it. So in any case, let's just get into the main episode. And let's begin in 3, 2, 1, play. Entente Alliance. Oh. Is this the Lieutenant Colonel from last episode? Leave the country to where? The Great Britain? Allied Kingdom? Is this girl actually going to be significant? I mean, I'm assuming it will. Otherwise, there's no point to specifically focus on their relation right now. Or even give them screen time, I mean. Oh. Don't tell me they're going to the United States? If there is one in this series. There should be one. It's impossible to not have one. A submachine gun. And more to the point, why does her daughter have that? So is her daughter like an engineer of some sorts? Well, it's been a while since we've seen the opening. Let me skip this, and I'll see you guys in a second. Actually, considering that Lieutenant Colonel last name is Sue, or Sui. Hold that thought. Okay, she wants to give up ground first, so that they can consolidate their supplies, and then go on the offensive. Winter and Germans. A 3-week offensive. Are they actually going to use them in such a uninspiring way as just smashing through the front lines? Okay. She really is. She really likes to taunt authority. You probably shouldn't. But she's right, you know. She's like, that commander is a buffoon. Hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so attacking at another position? Hmm. Okay, so actually using them as a sort of mobile strike force. Hmm. Mm, okay. I guess that makes sense as well. Yeah, I kind of overestimated the intelligence capabilities of a World War One era army. This is a era where this kind of surprise attack would still make sense, right? Since it doesn't have the benefits of the surveillance capabilities of modern armies. I mean, considering that it worked all the way up to World War II as well, right? You guys were kind of the aggressors, you know. Wait. That is definitely way too advanced for this age. Yeah, this is at least World War II era technology. They're fired up. Yeah, they definitely didn't have the materials to do this kind of thing in the 1920s. Hmm. Oh. There we go. Man, this is so OP for this era. Like, what can you do when your targets are this small? Like, what can those guns do? Yeah, that's fairly obvious. Because there's a bigger army behind there. Take out. So they're taking on a force about 5 times their size. Maybe 4 times. Hmm. Landing training exercise. Really? I wonder how they concealed their actual actions. And more to the point, where did those forces come from? Like, how did they have spare forces for this offensive? Okay. Seriously? Firing a... Oh, they actually did suffer casualties. Oh no, wait, it's them. I didn't see the equipment correctly. Oh. Ooh. Oh. She knows. What? Oh. And there's the fleet. Holy crap, again? This looks a little bit too advanced for a World War One. Oh. Nice. Ah. As a military nerd, naval bombardment is definitely something that how should I put it? It's a shame that it's not part of normal military doctrine nowadays, since it's far outdated, especially when you have missiles instead. But seriously, volleys from battleships are just so cool. Oh, he's gonna try to take them out. He's trying to kamikaze. Oh. Behead him? Oh, no, just straight to the chest. Well, it's like this is a nice gun. Yeah, those are definitely World War II era landing ships and battleships. Okay. And what's next? Mm. What? Do you have another ace up your sleeve?
北洋艦隊は揚陸に成功。すでに大志の鉄道を制圧したそうです。これで敵の鉄道を使って物資の補給もできる。相変わらず大胆なことだ。敵の尻を後ろから蹴り飛ばす。
So in a sense, it was still to solve the supply problem.
長引いていた戦線の処理も確実だろう。少し気は早いが、まさに決定的な一撃というわけだ。
I kind of agree. Alright, there's probably some more after the ending song, so let me skip this real quick. I'll see you guys in a second. What did I say? The United States. Arkansas. And it's actually just directly called the United States. Oh, and they actually went with a time skip as well. Oh, the war's over. Well, there we go. Out of all the options that I considered, I definitely did not expect a amphibious assault on what is essentially Norway. But, you know, to be fair, amphibious assaults weren't really a thing in World War One. Like, sure, there were a few, like the most famous ones probably being the one on the Ottoman Empire, and also I believe there was one in Africa, although I forgot the names of those. But by and large, uh, due to a lack of proper equipment, lack of proper technology, lack of proper tactics and strategy, amphibious assaults weren't really a thing there, right? So, and really, honestly, this episode features a lot of stuff that I think is more World War II inspired rather than World War One, right? In fact, the entire invasion that was portrayed within this episode could be a direct copy from actual World War II history, right? It's basically referencing the German invasion of Denmark and Normandy in 1940, which, you know, again, to give some context and also the differences between what is portrayed here and what is on what is in history. So at the start of the World War II, Britain and France didn't really want to fight, right? And Germany didn't really want to fight either on the Western Front. And so, relatively nothing happened. Although they were officially at war, these countries, they didn't really engage in large-scale battles, right? And at that time, the Scandinavian countries, Denmark, Norway, and Finland, again, they had great importance both from a strategic standpoint as well from a raw resource perspective, right? And so that is why Germany, in the end, decided to go on a preemptive strike against Scandinavia, of which they succeeded. Now, of course, within this anime here, it's a little bit different, right? Instead, the Entente Alliance are the aggressors, and the Empire already controls the lands of what in our world would be Denmark, right? And also, the Allied Kingdom, or Great Britain, has not officially joined the war yet. So those are some of the key differences, which I guess would be kind of prominent if we're talking about why this would succeed, right? So essentially, this is the invasion of Normandy, and particularly referencing one battle, the Battle of Drawback Sound, I believe, which is again the invasion of the Oslo Fort, which is, I guess you could say, a military base, pretty much near Oslo, right, the capital of Norway. So, and that is, it actually references a lot of the things that happen in history as well, including there being an old fortress there, as well as most of the recruits being fresh recruits, still in training recruits. Although that is where the comparison ends there, because in actual history, the assault on this fortress did not go nearly as well as expected. The Germans suffered heavy losses, and that actually delayed their entire capture of Oslo and prolonged the entire invasion plan. So here, there's a big difference, again, because of the presence of mages, right? And really, it's like, there's a reason, like I mentioned, there's a reason why amphibious assaults weren't really used that much before World War II, and even in World War II. Like, even if we're talking about the biggest amphibious assault in history, the Normandy landings, you know, a lot of things went wrong, right? Even though that was already one that involved so many people and so many resources. So, say for instance, the bombing of the Great Wall, that guarded against the invasions, the amphibious invasions in World War II, right? Because even bombers were so imprecise, and bombardment from naval warships were also inaccurate. You know, it's really hard to take out these strong points, these artillery positions or pillboxes or whatnot of the shoreside defenses, right? Here, though, with the presence of mages, they're actually able to very, very accurately take out all these strong points, disable the artillery guns and whatnot, and essentially make it safe for the main landing force to come through. So that is a huge difference, and I guess in retrospect, probably this is actually a very effective method of doing things. Although, again, lots of people have been saying that Tuatha are also a little bit special in their firepower compared to normal mages. So I guess not all mages can just try to brute force their way into a invasion. Although I will say that something that also aids them is probably the fact that the Allied Kingdom is not in the war yet. So I'm assuming that if it's based on Great Britain, they probably have a big naval fleet as well in this world. And, well, it's fairly hard to hide an invasion fleet, right? Although, well, how should I say this? See, it's really confusing, because this anime, as far as I can tell, already portrays the presence of radar. So radar is already there, and it's quite accurate from what I can see. You know, they can calculate the speeds, the altitudes of mages, so presumably it can be used at sea as well. So if you have an actively patrolling fleet, it's actually quite hard to sneak by them undetected, right? Now, in World War One, they didn't have this problem. They didn't have radar. In World War Two, even with radar, of course, there's also other. Well, actually, the actual Norway invasion at that time, probably the naval ships didn't have radar yet. 1940, did they do? Anyways, what I understand about that invasion was that the British ships didn't really understand that this was an invasion fleet. They thought it was just a normal naval fleet trying to engage them in battle, and so this kind of miscommunication was what led to the successful invasion and landing of the German troops in Norway. So I guess, alright, in this sense, I guess you can't really say anything is wrong from this perspective as well. But anyways, so again, like I said, one key difference here is that in reality, in history, the German invasion was delayed long enough for the Allied forces to send a expedition force also into Norway and to try to fight along and supposedly repel the German offense, although they eventually failed. Now here, though, I'm not quite sure if this is how it's going to work out. By all means, from what we can see or what we can hear by the end of the episode, it seems that this is playing out much differently than what history has taught us. And probably the Entente Alliance have been, eliminated from this great war game, right? So that is that. Also, I'd like to talk a little bit about Tanya's personalities. So a lot of you guys have been saying that, she's not exactly a stickler for authority. Instead, she just makes decisions on who she wants to follow based on competence. And with her rebuttal of the Northern Theater Commander in this episode, I guess I can definitely see why that is so. And that also probably explains why she is so stubborn on trying to fight against being X, right? So she is, I guess, in this way, stubborn in her own right, right? Because to me, I still feel like you definitely shouldn't be using that kind of method to lose your cool under under that kind of authority, right? It doesn't serve you any purpose if, like, I guess because she was in the presence of the other strategic command officers there, he can't really do anything to her. But still, she just needs to learn to keep her mouth shut, is what I'm saying. But anyways, I definitely feel like I wouldn't use authoritarian or totalitarian as words to describe her. Maybe more elitism, I guess, would fit her actual philosophy better as a way of understanding her. So I guess at least we got that as well. Now, okay, what else am I want to talk about? Ah, sorry, I forgot something. Kind of a minor nitpick from this episode. So, like I said, this episode definitely references World War II in a lot of ways, both in the actual historical events, but also in the equipment that they use as well. Those ships, those naval ships, and those landing craft definitely look much more World War II era to me than they do look World War One, and especially the transport plane that brought the two of third near to the Entente lines, near to where they were supposed to invade. That is also an aircraft that looks much more, at least World War II era, than it does in World War One. That kind of aircraft would never exist in a World War One or even 1920s setting, right? So that is a little bit suspect for me there. And the reason I say that is because if you have the technology, to make that kind of armor, to make that kind of engine, to power that kind of aircraft, you should absolutely have the same technology in order to make tanks. And if you can make tanks, well then, why are we still fighting trench warfare on the Western Front, right? So that, trying to mix technologies over what is essentially 30 years, or at least 20-25 years, doesn't really make sense in that kind of context. So some of these weird things do come up. Now, of course, it's not really a major issue, right? But it does kind of gets one thinking, right? Is this actually a sort of a plot hole? And it kind of breaks the immersion of the world we're in, right? But again, we have mages, right? So the balance of power is already all wacky. But I'm just saying, the presence of what the Western Front currently is, that kind of situation, doesn't really make sense with the technology that we are being presented with. So that's that. And I guess one final thought I have is in regards to the United States, right? So, well, of course the United States would exist here. Now, that's a given. But we haven't really been introduced to them yet, and it's unclear what their position is as of yet within this anime. Now, of course, if we correspond to both World War I and World War II, they were always on the side of the Allies, even when not actively fighting, but also providing supplies, loans, yada yada yada, right? Now, the entry of the US into World War II was, of course, the bombing of Pearl Harbor, right? But the entry into World War I was actually when Germany went on sort of like an all-out naval warfare against Great Britain, against the Allied Kingdom. So I wonder if we're going to have this sort of parallel in events in this series as well. But considering that Tanya should have knowledge of this, I'm guessing not. Probably the United States is going to have to be involved in this conflict through another kind of method, right? But then again, Tanya is still only a major right now, so what exactly can she do if the strategic command or high command already decides on a particular course of action, right? So, actually, I think there are two things, two major things. One was the unrestricted use of naval power, especially submarines, and the second was also, I remember this one, a sort of like secret agreement with the Mexicans to fight against America, fight against the United States, and let them regain lost territory. That's, I believe, the two major factors that decided that ultimately led to the United States involvement in World War One. So these are still possible. It could still be something that is done, but considering that even the Allied Kingdom hasn't joined the fray yet, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. So that's been that. I'm sorry if I didn't really talk about anything more substantial this episode, but it was fairly straightforward as well, with, I guess, a successful invasion, and that was that, right? We already see what happened on the screen. So, that's that. Hopefully by next episode, we're going to go back to the Western Front, where I believe things are a lot more interesting than it is right now. At least in terms of the scale of combat, I think. So that was that, and as for that little girl, Mary, is she going to have any significant impact? I don't know. She doesn't really seem like a person of great worth or anything. Like, what's so special about her? Did she actually design the submachine gun? It seemed from the context that she designed that submachine gun, but I don't know. I guess we'll find out together in the future. So that's been episode 7, and I will see you guys next time. Till then, bye bye.